Hello, I'm Dr. Hassan Tohid, and I'm here with another amazing topic as usual: how to differentiate between different kinds of review articles. Welcome back. How do we differentiate between different kinds of review articles? This is a very important topic and one of the most commonly asked questions that I often see thrown at me by different kinds of students. So I decided to make this video a fresh video of this year so that if anyone asks this question, they can watch this video and it will solve their problem. So let's begin. Review articles are of various kinds: traditional review, scoping review, systematic review, meta-analysis, mapping review, different kinds of reviews. But if we see general classification, there are mainly three kinds: traditional review, systematic review, and meta analysis. And today we will talk about these three. If you understand these three, you will understand the basic idea and basic concept. So, what is a traditional review? Remember, traditional review is also known as literature review or narrative review. These are the three names of this study design: literature review, traditional review, or narrative review. The second kind is systematic review, and systematic review is called as systematic review, no other name, or systematic literature review. The third kind is meta-analysis. So let's talk about the differences. If we talk about traditional review, the literature review, the narrative review, it is a review article where we combine so many papers together and write one article out of it. What do we do in a systematic review then? We combine so many papers together and write one article out of it. What do we do in meta-analysis? We combine so many papers together and write one article out of it. So essentially, they all three have the same thing. So what is the difference? Let's talk about this more. This is why I just want to keep it a little interesting by mentioning the similarities. So yes, in all three, traditional review, systematic review, and meta-analysis, we have combined previously published papers and we have written one paper out of it. That's an example, right? Now, let's talk about traditional review. What is a traditional review? In traditional review, our topic is generally broad. We don't have to have a research question per se, but you don't have to have a research question. You can have a general topic. And when you collect data from previously published papers, you don't collect this data systematically. You don't have to have an inclusion exclusion criteria or robust inclusion exclusion criteria. You may still have a little bit of inclusion exclusion criteria, but a robust inclusion exclusion criteria is not needed for traditional review. So you don't need a research question per se. This topic doesn't have to be narrowed. It is a broad topic, and inclusion exclusion criteria is not needed. Now, the next thing is, do you need any checklist or guidelines to write this paper? No, you write it like an essay. And now what about the quality assessment, quality appraisal, the critical appraisal? Do we check the quality of the articles that we have included in this paper? No, we don't. We write a paper by combining low quality, good quality, average quality, all kinds of papers. And then we write an article out of it. So this is a traditional review, simply written like an essay. Now, what is a systematic review then? As the name suggests, systematic review is systematic in nature. What does that mean? It means we are creating a system. It means we are creating such a document that has systematic approach and step-by-step process is so clearly mentioned that anyone can repeat it. Let's say I conduct my systematic review today, and after 100 years, somebody wants to do the same steps that I have done, follow the same steps that I have followed. He or she will get exact same results. It's a replicable or a strategy that can be duplicated. So systematic review starts with a narrow topic, not that broad as a traditional review, but a narrow topic. And you have a research question, a PICO question: P for population or problem, I for intervention, C for comparison or control group, and O for outcome. You will have a PICO question format. So you need a research question. Then you need robust inclusion exclusion criteria, that what kind of studies you will keep and what kind of studies you will not keep. And you will follow certain guidelines to write this paper. What are the most common guidelines? PRISMA guidelines, preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta-analysis. PRISMA. So yes, you will have PRISMA guidelines as the reporting guidelines for writing a systematic review. The next thing is the search strategy. You will follow a systematic approach, and you will make sure that you follow all the steps mentioned by the Prisma checklist. Now, remember, systematic review is only as good as the studies it contains. What does that mean? It means that you will try your best to add only the studies with good quality, with less bias. So yes, you will check the quality. You will apply the quality appraisal tool. You will check the quality of the papers. And in the end, then you write the paper down. So what is the main difference between a systematic review and a traditional review? In traditional review, you don't have a research question per se. You may have it, but you don't have to have it. Here in systematic review, you do need a research question. In traditional review, you have a broad topic. In systematic review, you don't have to have a broad topic. You will have a narrow topic. And you follow the PICO research question. Then you follow guidelines in systematic review, Prisma guidelines. Here in traditional review, you don't follow any guidelines. I know there is a guideline or checklist, SANRA checklist, SANRA. That's an option to use, but that's not mandatory. But here you must follow certain guidelines. Then once that is done, you follow the procedure or the steps mentioned in the Prisma checklist. You do the screening of abstracts and titles, screening of full text, and then you apply the quality appraisal tool. And in the quality appraisal tool, you check the quality of the studies and you keep only good quality studies and you remove the bad quality studies, and then you extract data, and then you finally write your paper down. So this is a systematic review written systematically because you're creating a system. A traditional review doesn't have to be a system. It's written like an essay. So the unique point is that if 10 people write traditional review, all 10 can be different papers and all can have different results. But if 10 people follow systematic review step-by-step methodology, all 10 people will get the same results. That's the goal. Although it may not happen all the time, but that's the goal. And now the meta-analysis, the last option. Remember, systematic review becomes meta-analysis. Yes, some systematic reviews will remain systematic reviews. They will not be statistical, but some systematic reviews will need statistics, and you will have to use a data analysis software like RevMan software, REVMAN, Review Manager, RevMan. So you use that software and convert your systematic review into a statistical paper, and you call it a meta-analysis. So what kind of systematic reviews convert into meta-analysis? Remember, when you have different kinds of studies, you cannot combine them together. When you have similar studies, that means when you have homogeneous studies, you will be able to combine them statistically. You will apply the statistics and you will change it or convert it into a meta-analysis. So not all systematic reviews can become meta-analysis, but all meta-analysis were actually systematic reviews. So remember, systematic review, if you want to make sure your systematic review converts into meta-analysis, becomes a meta-analysis, take homogeneous studies, similar in terms of patient, population, intervention, control group, and outcome. If the similarities are not there, then you cannot combine them together and they will just remain non-statistical and they will remain a systematic review. So that's how a systematic review becomes meta-analysis. That when you have similar studies, you can combine them and statistically you can analyze the data and it becomes a meta-analysis. Because meta-analysis is the pooling of the results. In systematic review, you just present the results of different studies like a narrative summary and you present it. But in meta-analysis, you will just look at the results of each study. And if they are similar studies, now you can calculate it, combine the data, combine the number of patients, and you now analyze it. And now you have the meta-analysis done. So this is the difference between the three kinds of articles. Now, a quick summary: traditional review, no guidelines needed, written like an essay. Systematic review, guidelines needed, Prisma guidelines, and the same systematic review with Prisma guidelines can become a meta-analysis if you have similar studies together in this paper. So this is how you differentiate between traditional review, systematic review, and meta-analysis. Keep learning, keep watching. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you.